Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of DeLoreanTECH, and this is our review and unboxing video of the new 1/6 scale Mark II DeLorean time machine from Hot Toys. So we've been waiting for this model for about 7 years now. The first time I saw this was at San Diego Comic-Con back in 2016, and I've wanted it ever since. I even held off on buying the Mark I until this was released. Eventually I gave up and ended up buying the Mark I. Eventually though, here we are, it's 2023. This thing just arrived yesterday. I have not watched any other unboxing review videos on YouTube. This is a completely unbiased, straight review that I'm hoping you'll enjoy. If you have any issues with this, please take a look at my other video, which goes into the top 10 issues with the Hot Toys Mark II DeLorean. I'll drop a link for that as well as a card here in this video. And then we'll also do a side-by-side comparison, a separate video of the Mark I and Mark II, just highlighting the differences. There aren't too many. Obviously this can go into hover mode, so there's that, but there are a few other differences that you're going to want to take a look at. So before we get into the unboxing video, I did want to do a quick walk around. This actually is very cool. I really do like it, and I definitely think it was worth the wait, although I felt like we had to wait a little bit longer than we should have. Unfortunately, there are some issues with it, and like I mentioned, they're going to have a separate video on this highlighting the top 10 issues with this, which you're going to need to watch before you buy this thing, because this is several $100s more than the Mark I. One thing obviously I do like is that you can actually open up Mr. Fusion, so that's pretty cool. The doors, they open up as well, just like the Mark I. So here's what it looks like with the doors in hover mode position. So there's a look at the interior as well. So it does come with a stand, which you can see right there. It's got LED lighting all over the place. So underneath, inside the wheels here, and on the other side as well, you've got the vents here are lit. Unfortunately, Mr. Fusion is not lit. That would have been cool. But overall, I really do like this. I think it's definitely worth it, but again, not without its issues. As you'll see in this unboxing video, I did encounter several issues with this. You know, there's issues with tires, there's issues with, you know, just kind of assembling it together. I was able to kind of work through a lot of that stuff, but take a look at this video, this unboxing video, and let me know what you guys think about some of the issues, some of the problems that I think I found with this. So as you can see, it looks really awesome in the dark with the LEDs blasting. I think part of the reason why I like this so much is because of how it looks in the dark. So we're going to be showing you what this looks like, obviously in the dark as well. I think it looks pretty awesome. It's definitely an awesome display piece. So you can kind of see the flux capacitor fluxing in there, as well as the SID, and you've got a pretty cool dash and time circuits display going on there as well. So underneath you have some pretty awesome lighting. Once again, it looks pretty killer here in the dark. Overall, I think they did a pretty good job with the LEDs. It definitely beats out the Mark I as far as display ability. But again, it's not without its issues. We'll get into that. We'll get into some other videos discussing that, as well as our comparison video against the Mark I. Alright everybody, without further ado, let's get started. Alright everybody, so here's the unboxing video. Obviously the shipping box has some pretty cool art on it. So it's got the time machine, and it looks like it's the old version of the time machine, so it has the wheels that are like way under the car, which thank God they fixed that, right? So Back to the Future Part 2, DeLorean Time Machine, MMS 636. We're going to go ahead and unbox this. So there it is. So this is kind of cool. This is just cardboard, I think, but it's got these straps. You just kind of let gravity do its thing here. And there we go. So this is really just decorative right here. All right. Oh, look at this. Looks like a poster. Very cool. And instructions on how to assemble. Reminds me of the the Mark I DeLorean, okay? Except we've got this. This is the base. So that should be interesting. Flux bands, of course, just like the Mark I. So there you go. And Mr. Fusion. Here's Mr. Fusion. And the clock. Just like the Mark I. So I'm seeing shades of the Mark I here. Here's the front Flux Band. So these are for the stand. This is what we're actually going to connect the time machine to. And here we are. The moment of truth. The unveiling. Man. Oh, they fixed the fascias. They fixed the fascias. All right, they're not brown anymore. That was what I was worried about the most, was the fascias. I know that's kind of crazy, but I am a DeLorean owner. It is what it is, right? Everybody else might be more concerned about something going on over here, but me, I'm like, the fascias, including the rear fascias, they're the right color. So we'll do a comparison video of the Mark I and the Mark II. But right now, obviously, this is just the unboxing video, so let's get this thing out. Alright, it's light, just like the Mark I. It rolls, it rolls. You gotta be very careful when you're unboxing this thing. You do not want to break something. That's what I'm always worried about. Alright, so get that out of the way. Let's get these out of the way. Those things are very useful. Somebody's thinking over there at Hot Toys. So now that we have it out of the box, let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. Just before we start assembling it. One of the things that someone mentioned on the channel was that they were upset that you can't swap out a Mr. Fusion for the plutonium chamber, but since you can remove Mr. Fusion, maybe somebody will 3D print something to sort of take its place here, in case you want to go back and forth. Just looking at these two, at first glance, they look quite a bit the same almost. There's a few differences here and there. We'll go through that in a separate video when we do a side-by-side comparison of the Mark I and Mark II DeLoreans. But this is looking pretty awesome. Just as awesome as the Mark I. You've got the brushed finish going on there. You can kind of see that. I'm so glad they fixed the fascias, because that was something that I was always sort of a pet peeve of mine with the Mark I, was the color of the fascias. So they have absolutely fixed that. There's a definite change there. This is more of a bronzy color. This is silver. So let's see what's going on here. Something's up with these tires. There's something on there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. So it almost looks like there's a defect going on here. I'm looking at a bunch of spots, so I'm not liking that. So we got an issue here. So let's take a look at that issue. I noticed that the whole bottom of the vehicle kind of has a similar situation going here. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's some sort of a paint defect. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this. Figure out what that is. Honestly, I don't know what's going on with the tires here. It could be a defect, but it just doesn't seem likely, because nothing else is like that. Like the wheels aren't like that. So let's take a look at that. So is that supposed to be weathering, or is that a defect? Drop your comment down below confirming what's going on with these tires here. I don't see anything on the wheels, I don't see anything on the finish here. So quality control, perhaps, unknown. So you can actually turn these wheels, I think, in and out 20 degrees. Okay. So these are covered up, just like on the Mark 1. And you also have a layer of film that is covering the windows here, the side windows and also the windshield that'll have to come off. I'll probably take that off last once I get everything all kind of set up. So you definitely want to inspect this. If there's anything wrong with it, then that might be an issue for you to take up with Hot Toys or Sideshow, wherever you bought this from, right? So far, I don't see any major problems other than the tires, right? But it definitely rolls. It's pretty cool. So we are going to attach the front Flux Band first. So just like on the Mark 1, just carefully remove it from this packaging here. Okay, and it goes this way. So there's some mounting tabs here. Let's go ahead and insert those. And then we'll connect the wiring after we get these situated. So this can be a little tricky here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the bottom ones first, then I'm going to try to pinch the top ones in by pushing up on the outside of these tabs here. So I was able to get this one in here. It's a little bit of a trick. So you definitely have to kind of push in and then sort of turn down. But you gotta also make sure that the sides are not impeding your ability to get those little tabs in there. There we go. Got it. I don't believe it. So that was pretty tough. Obviously these ones here are a little bit easier. You can just kind of get those in like that on the sides here. Just be very careful when you're doing this. Don't force it. This one here, you're gonna have to just do it like that. So that looks good. Just go ahead and put that in like that, and then on the side here, kind of bend it a little bit. It's kind of flexible, so you can kind of get it in. But this was a little bit of a challenge. I don't remember it being that hard in the Mark 1 car. All right, so the next order of business per the instructions is to insert the wiring into the flux bands. And how you do that is a thicker wire goes into the top connection right here, and the thinner twisted wiring goes into this one right here. There we go. Be very careful when you insert these. You don't want to inadvertently damage. Now, I'm trying to look at what this thing is supposed to look like here, and it looks like you can go underneath. You can probably just twist this, just like you have on the Mark 1, and go ahead and insert. Like so. There you go. So again, small wires go into this hole right here, kind of support the flux box right here with your hand so you don't push down on it, and then of course possibly break it off. It's the last thing we want to do. And hopefully there's enough slack for this one here. Again, these are pretty flexible, so you can just kind of turn that like that over your finger and just go ahead and plug that right in there. You may have to turn the box down just a little bit. There we go. Nice. I think we got the front flux band on successfully, although it was certainly a chore. Now let's take a look at the rest of the flux bands. So the first thing you want to do is locate the two sets of wires here below the rear bumper. They're just kind of loose in there. So you'll be making your connection here, and then obviously along the rear quarter fender, and then up to here. So let's get our Flux Bands unpackaged. Now again, be very careful when you're removing these. You don't want to inadvertently break them. This should just come out pretty easy here. I may connect it to the body first. That just appears to be easier. Hopefully I'm not going to have the same problems I had in the front. Okay, this is looking a little easier than it was for the front. Okay, that's going in. Make sure these wires are not in the way here. Just go ahead and push in. So these are fairly simple compared to what we had up front. There we go. Good. So we got them all in there. Again, you just kind of have to work them in. All right, let's get the other Flux Band going here, and we'll make the connection down here last. So now we're going to put the driver's side Flux Band on. So we'll just repeat the process, put it on the other side, and hopefully nothing will break. So these are actually inserting pretty good. Just put them straight in. They should fit in pretty okay there. They should click. So if they don't, just make sure you've got these things aligned. You know, this is basically installing identically to the Mark 1. In fact, this is probably the same design as the Mark 1. So that one went in a lot easier than the other side. So there we go. So up top here, it's a little wonky. You're gonna have to kind of push these in a little bit in order to get them connected. They should click together. And then mind this tab right here. If it comes out or if it gets loose, kind of hold that down. And there you go. All right, so the next order of business is to get these in. So there's little tabs here that connect to the muffler. I know, kind of funny, but that's just how it is. So you're gonna have to kind of connect those underneath like that. This one's already there. That one just kind of went in by itself. Then what I would do is connect the hoses and the wiring. So that's not too hard to do. Again, you just kind of have to, I would get the rear one in first. That way it's not in the way when you're trying to do it. It's kind of hard to see where it goes here because it's hard to film this. But that just kind of goes in the rear connection, and the hose goes into the forward connection. You can bring that back a little bit. Connect it in like that. Then you're gonna have to kind of push in. So you're gonna have to bend that a little bit. Maybe around your finger like we did with the front Flux Bands. There you go. So I don't know if that's screen accurate or not. It looks a little weird. I'm pretty sure the muffler will melt that, but who knows. Alright, we'll try it with the other one. Maybe we need to push in a little bit. There we go. It's kind of working. So the rear, obviously more flexible, easier to get these wires in. Okay, so I just insert this one like that. So that just goes in. There you go. And hose has to be bent a little bit, and then you just kind of pop it in like that. There you go. So it doesn't look too bad, and it's kind of symmetrical. Well, not really, but pretty close, right? I guess it doesn't matter. I'm not a stickler. You guys might be. I don't have any of this stuff on my DeLorean. I probably never will, but I've got nothing against it because it's all good to me. All right, so the next order of business is to connect the wires and the hoses up top here. Like that, and then the hose goes in like this. Same thing for the other side. There we go, and this goes in there. And I'm looking at the instructions, and it doesn't really. So there's some. It feels like there's something supposed to be something down there that organizes these hoses a little bit. You can kind of see it, but it's not actually there. So I guess you can just run it like this. Hell, that looks fine. I just don't care anymore. Alright, so the next order of business is to install the little alarm clock. So that is this guy right there. So you just gotta open up this clamshell and then get your little alarm clock. Open up the doors. They open up basically the same as the Mark 1. So you get your alarm clock. It goes right on top of the radio, which is right here. This little tab. Just insert it in there. Done deal. Very simple. Now the next order of business, or really the final order of business, is to get Mr. Fusion on. So Mr. Fusion is pretty cool. It does open up. So it's got a little protective plastic in there. It'd be cool if it came with, like, you know, a little beer can and a banana peel, but unfortunately it doesn't. But look at the detail on that. That is pretty neat. That is pretty cool. So I'm a big fan of Mr. Fusion, obviously. And let's get this thing on there. So it really just connects via these 4 tabs right here. So we'll just go ahead and put those on like that. Bam! Very simple. So the instructions also say to open up the hood. So let's go ahead and open up the hood. You can kind of open it up a little further than you can a real DeLorean, which is helpful because you need to unscrew battery cover, which is the spare tire. There we go. So there's your spare tire. Well, part of a spare tire. Just get yourself some AA batteries and we'll go ahead and put those in. The on-off switch is right here. This actually has 2 ons and 1 off switch. So we'll go ahead and just kind of replace the spare tire, facade spare tire. And you could screw it back on or not. Maybe just a little bit there. There we go. What I want to do is remove the film, so we'll go ahead and do that. And there's these little tabs here that just make it easier to just kind of, you just grab the corner and just peel it off. And you be careful because these windshield wipers are here, so you're gonna have to go underneath them. Make sure you don't take them with you as you're peeling this off. There we go. Of course, you have the same deal here. You've got a little tab right here that you can just grab and then slowly pull that away. And done. Alright, so let's go over the lighting here. So I have it on mode 1, which is just normal driving mode, right? And if you go to mode 2, you can see that the lights here turn on. So this is what we call a hover mode, right? You want to make sure that they all turn on. So I'm going to double check. And yep. Wait a minute. That one on? Yes, it is on. Just kind of dim. So we'll have to turn the lights out to see how this really looks. That looks pretty sick. So it's pretty bright. It's not bad. The camera picks it up pretty nice. The headlights, obviously, those are pretty cool looking. They look kind of blue on the camera, but they're actually more of a 6000K, I would say, color temperature white. And yeah, so this is pretty neat. Just like this, it's kind of cool, you know? And of course, you've got the tail lights and the vents in the back. This looks pretty cool. So it's kind of like a soft white. I think Denobi pointed out that it should be a more of a bright white, maybe like the reverse lights here. So you've got, yeah, this isn't really accurate. This is amber. It should be more orangey. The reds look okay. You know, it's like the Mark 1 for the most part. So can't really complain about that. Looks all right. Yeah, but the lit wheels, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Let's take a look and see what we got underneath. That's pretty cool. So you've got green LEDs in here, you've got some clear ones in here, and you've got some, looks like some animated lighting going on here. So that's pretty neat. So this looks pretty sick. I mean, I've got my DeLorean dealer sign going on here right now just to provide a little bit of some accent lights. That is pretty cool. I gotta admit, that looks pretty awesome. So we can see what's going on the inside. So this is pretty cool. You've got the time circuits, you've got the dashboard. All that looks really cool. And then you've got, over on this side, you've got the flux capacitor, which is fluxing. And then you have the SID, the spectrum indicator display, or the status indicator display, whatever it is. Zoom in on the flux capacitor. That's pretty cool. Very neat. And there's the SID. Let's zoom in on the dash display, and then we'll look at the plutonium gauges in a moment here. So that looks pretty cool. So I don't know that those dates are right. Got 1955, 1885, and 1985. So it looks okay to me. You can see the month there. If you look closely, you got, right here you got January, the year, but I guess this is the time over here, right? Okay, so everything looks good. Everything's in order here. It's just not very visible to the naked eye, although it looks like, yeah, that actually looks okay. I've got to check against an actual prop, so there's my reference point. So everything checks out. I have the speedo right here. That's lit, so that's pretty neat. I like that dash. That's pretty cool. If you look closely, you can see the DeLorean logo, the DMC logo in there. See if we can zoom in on that, as well as the door go. So that looks pretty legit. I like it, definitely. So opening up the passenger door, we're going to go ahead and take a peek in here to take a look at the plutonium gauges. But the plutonium gauges look pretty cool. Again, I am not an expert on time machines, so if this looks good, let me know in the comments. If it's not screen accurate, then also let me know in the comments. The vents here, the vent lighting is pretty cool. It may not be the right color, but it doesn't look bad. Overall, I think the whole lighting effect of this is pretty awesome. So I have to admit, this does look pretty badass with the lights out. So this is pretty cool. This is definitely a win. Definitely a nice light show. Can't wait to compare this to the Mark 1. This definitely has a lot more lighting going on compared to the Mark 1. It definitely made some improvements here for sure. So let's take a look at the interior here. It does look pretty cool. Obviously at night it looks even better, but it looks good. You know, just natural light going on in there. So this is pretty cool. I've got the lights on right now. You can't really see them too well, but you know, you can kind of see the flux capacitor lit up in there. So that's pretty cool. The seats look good. You know, the shifter is kind of neat. It actually moves around. That's kind of cool, right? What else? Steering wheel moves as well. I don't see any pedals down there, so there's no pedals down there. That's all right. You know, you got your seatbelt deal. That does not move, but there's no seatbelt, right? Yeah, no seatbelt. So it's fairly minimalist when it comes to all the details and stuff, but this isn't bad. Hey, this actually moves around a little bit. Look at that. Cool. So that moves around. That's neat. What else we got here? Yeah, the plutonium gauges on the other side. So check out the detail here. This is pretty cool. All you time machine people out there, you guys can comment on whether or not this is accurate, whether or not you like it. All the DeLorean details are here. Not 100% car accurate, but not bad. You know, not bad. Again, very reminiscent of the Mark 1. So it all looks great. There's the regulator right here, that's all lit, so that looks good. Cool, so notice the flux capacitor is the proper light colored box and not the dark gray box. So just wanted to point that out. So they got a lot of this right. We got to get this thing in the hover mode. That's the reason why we bought it, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so the first order of business to get this into hover mode, you got to pull the wheels out, right? You pull them out like that, right? And they come out pretty far and then they click. Okay, so we'll do that here with the rear wheel. Yeah, you probably can close the doors while you're doing this. So you pull these tires out like that and they go out pretty far. Be careful, don't break them. This is gonna look kind of funny. Wide body DeLorean without the fenders or something here. So go ahead and hopefully that's stable that way. You know, we want to pull the tires out. There we go. This is gonna look funny. So again, pull the tires out like that. There we go. It looks like a dune buggy or something now. Look at that. That looks funny. It almost looks kind of cool like that. Oh man. So yeah, that's very interesting. All right. So all you got to do to get the wheels into hover mode is just turn them down. Okay, and that's that. Right? So if you look at this, this is actually lit. So this light is bleeding through, which according to Denobi on Denobi 2 is not screen accurate. I actually thought this was going to be like a yellow color with the lights turned off, but it actually isn't. It is in fact gray in there. So if we turn them off, as you can see, right? So I don't mind so much about that. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but if you have issues with this, somebody's probably going to make a fix for this. There's probably going to be a cover. You can put something over that that's non-invasive to the model itself. We'll go ahead and turn down the rear passenger tire as well. So let's see. There we go. Although it feels like the tire is kind of touching a little bit there, but so it's kind of tight. Let's go ahead and turn it over to the other side here and do the same thing. So again, just kind of fold down. You can kind of see that for yourself there. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and they don't hang very low. They're actually kind of up. They're a little bit more flush, right, compared to what we had originally seen when they first showed the prototype for this thing. So that one actually, I feel like maybe I haven't pulled the passenger rear tire out all the way. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. It could just be a quality issue. So I'm noticing the tire, the speckled paint that's on these tires here. You can kind of see it. It's all over the tire. So I don't know what to say about that, right? So let's push this in. We're out all the way. So it's definitely a quality issue. I noticed that the tire's kind of hitting on the inside there a little bit, but if you kind of push it up, you're okay. So it is what it is. I know the Mark 1 had issues as well, but you gotta admit, this is kind of cool. So let's get that stand together. Alright, so the stand comes in several pieces. I'm going to go ahead and quickly put it together. The instructions are right here. It's very basic. We've got multiple pieces here which we need to put together to complete the stand. So just kind of move everything from their packaging. Alright, so you've got multiple pieces going on here. Okay, so you've got two of these vertical pieces that will go in on the rear, the base. Okay, so if you look at the instructions, They go on like this. So there's some slots in here, and you just go ahead and line up this triangular section here on the stand legs. Alright, so that looks pretty easy. And you've got the front piece, which is a similar design. So you just go ahead and put that in like this. It's pretty easy. And then you've got this sort of crossover piece. Let's see how that looks. Oh, okay, this actually enables the tilt, right? So this crossover piece enables the tilt. So you could probably put it on either side. I'm just going to go with what the figure here is showing. So we'll go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. Hopefully without breaking it. So it looks like it just kind of fits in there like that. There we go. Nice, pretty easy. Of course this comes out. Doesn't really lock in place. Maybe the weight of the vehicle will hold that down better. Then you've got this part right here. So this one goes in. You want to make sure it's angled the same as the rear. Okay, you don't want to put it in this way, right? You want to make sure it's angled the same as your rear legs, the rear piece. And that looks like it's in there. So here's your fully assembled stand. Can't wait to get this thing on there. Let's go ahead and do it. So the instructions show a connection there that you'll need to follow. So we'll go ahead and see what that looks like underneath. Moment of truth. I did study underneath here, and you're gonna want to make sure that we're getting this thing on here. Now I did want to point out a couple of connection points when you rest this on the stand. This part here, which arguably looks like it might be the gas tank, but obviously isn't. That actually goes back here. This actually has to rest in between this slot right here, and then you have the connection points over here, which is this one and this one. Those fit inside here, here, and here. We're going to show you guys how this is supposed to be mounted onto the stand. Again, I pointed out that the area right there in the front rests there, and you've got that area here, and of course the quote-unquote gas tank fits in the slot there in the back. So right here, and you've got the slots here. So that looks okay. You got to double check to make sure you're actually connected. It's not super secure, so you do have to be very careful. And there she is in hover mode. So you gotta admit, this looks pretty awesome. We gotta definitely hit these lights. There we go. So they're on. Again, this bleed through right here isn't supposed to be screen accurate, but man, this looks pretty intense. This looks pretty intense. Okay, so here it is on the other side. This is pretty sick. I can tell you that display case from iDisplay is definitely not going to fit this. It's too high for sure. They're going to have to make another one for that. But this is pretty sick. This is very cool. I like that little animation going on underneath. That's pretty sick. So there it is, guys. We completed Mark II hover mode DeLorean time machine. 1/6 scale from Hot Toys. And here's what it looks like with the doors up in hover mode. This is pretty awesome. Gotta admit, that's pretty cool. Now, should I display it? Hopefully, when they make the case, they could make it big enough to where you can display this with the doors up, right? So, that would be cool. So that looks pretty badass. Let's get those lights off. Alright, and here we are in the dark, and it looks pretty awesome. Gotta admit. So this is kind of growing on me now. I kind of see why they had it like that, is to give it some more effect from above, because you don't really see as much of the underneath part, right? I mean, you can kind of see that there's some light coming from there, but just looking at it, depending on what angle you're looking at it, you're not really seeing a whole lot of the lighting underneath the wheels there. Okay. So it's very clear that they kind of took a little bit of license with this. I think I'm okay with it. I get where Denobi's coming from, that it's not screen accurate, but when you're looking at this thing, it kind of ties it in a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you're looking at it from my height, you kind of want to see some light here, you know, in the wheel well, and this kind of gives you that, right? So it's almost like accent lighting that they decided to add to the time machine. I think it's okay. It really shows up pretty awesome on camera. So when you're looking at this thing, you really got to look underneath to see the lighting for the actual face of the wheels there, right? So you don't really see that a whole lot, and there's not a whole lot of light coming down from there, especially because you got the fins there that are kind of blocking it. So when you look at it from this angle, you hardly see any light at all. You really got to go underneath to see that. Okay. So there it is right there. It does look pretty cool. So it is pretty awesome, especially in the dark. I'm really liking this. Another shot in the dark with the doors down. Does pick up the lighting pretty awesome, gotta admit. Now I'm certain somebody's going to do something about these wheels. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe they'll have something a little brighter coming from underneath here, because you know, a camera picks it up a little better than the eye, for sure. A lot of you guys who already have this will know that. But you know, actually, this is really, it is kind of growing on me. I think even in the few minutes that I've had this model. All right, everybody, thanks for watching this episode. Stay tuned for part 2 when we do a side-by-side comparison between the Mark 1 Back to the Future Part 1 DeLorean and the Mark 2 from Part 2. Hover mode. So we've got them together. This looks amazing right here, just having them like this. But we're going to do a side-by-side. We're going to go through all the differences. There aren't that many. You can actually just take a look at it right here and kind of get a feel for what the differences are. Obviously, the big difference for us is that they've kind of fixed the fascias. That was a huge plus. I mean, there it is, right? Night and day, people. Night and day. Anyway, guys, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.